Hey everybody, Edward Krim back again to bother you with more interesting, to me, information about cameras. So I picked up this great little camera the other day, the Yashica Lynx 14E, which has the reputation, allegedly, for being the only fixed lens rangefinder camera with an f1.4 lens on it. Look at that baby. Beautiful, isn't it? And I got it for a mere 123,780 Cambodian reals, which is 72,150 Tanzanian shillings, or 39,300 Iraqi dinars, or 9,660 Zimbabwe dollars, or 2,538 Russian rubles, or 514 Mexican pesos. That's $39.64 Canadian, or exactly $30 US. So we're going to try this little baby out. But the question with rangefinder cameras is always, how accurate is the rangefinder? Well, when I picked it up off of somebody's doorstep, I very carefully checked all the shutter speeds. This lens has a leaf shutter. There you go. Did you see it? Catch that? Not too noisy either. So I checked out all the shutter speeds all the way down to 1 second. They work pretty well, sound pretty accurate. I checked the aperture. It moves, okay, from 1.4 to f16. And I took a look at the X-Sync for flash, because I like to take flash pictures in my studio. And all these things seem to work pretty well. Now, I think the battery is corroded inside the battery compartment there. I don't know if you can see that or not. There it is, there's the battery compartment. Because I couldn't quite get it open, and I didn't want to mangle it with a, lockjaw or channel lock pliers. But we're gonna test right now, we're gonna test the rangefinder to see if it focuses accurately. So I'm gonna put it on the camera stand here, tighten it down. Now I focused it on this area right here of the dots. Can you see that? Yep, you can see that. And so I'm going to then open the back of the camera, and I'm going to conduct a little test. Now the film goes across these rails right here. There's a little bit of crud on that one. We'll clean it off. Film goes across these rails right here, and other than the fact that it has a leaf shutter, so you don't see a shutter here, this looks pretty much like any 35mm single lens reflex, most of which had focal plane shutters. So I'm going to test it by putting some tape across these pieces right there. Now, my favorite brand of tape is the Scotch Magic Transparent Tape made by 3M Corporation, the Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, which has been my favorite tape manufacturer for a long, long time. They were in the news recently. Forever Chemicals. Anyway, we're not going to dwell on that. They make great tape. And we're going to put it across the opening there, and we're going to use that to see whether or not we've got correct focus in that place. So I want to stretch it taut across that opening, and that looks reasonably okay. I'm going to pull out my handy dandy Pacifist Nation pocket tool. This is not a knife, it did not come from an army. Okay, just calm down. And I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting on my ground glass there, substitute here, which is actually, of course, just a type of plastic, but that finish on it makes it act like a ground glass screen. So I'm going to turn the camera to B for bulb. I'm going to open it up to maximum aperture. I'm going to press the shutter release, and it looks to me like I've got some pretty well-focused circles there. So I'm gonna look at it with this loop if I can get it down in there, which I can't quite. So I'm gonna turn it around the other way and I'm gonna check the focus. And by golly, that focus looks pretty darn good. PDG, as we say in the industry. So I'm going to take the tape out because obviously I don't want to take pictures with that tape in there, although it would be sort of like having a Holga or a Diana camera, I guess, you know, fuzzy pictures. Now this camera hails from a time before the cameras had hot shoes, so it's got just a solid metal plate there. So I'm going to put one of my Pocket Wizard Plus 3s on top to trigger the flash so we can test the X sync on this camera. But I put a piece of tape across it to keep it from shorting out on this all metal shoe. Now technically I don't have to mount it on the camera to make the flash fire because, let me show you, I'm going to plug in a cable right here on this side, and then this part, which has a PC connector. Can you see the darn thing? Yep, there it is. PC connector stands for Prontor Compure, not any of the other PCs that are common nowadays. And we're going to plug it right in here in the end. Okay, where the PC connector on this camera is. Prontor and Compure were the two big German manufacturers of shutters back in the days when Germany ruled the film world. Going to turn on the Pocket Wizard, and we're going to set it to channel, what channel am I on here? I'm on channel 6. Go to channel 6. Nope, I'm on 7, sorry. Forgot about that. Okay, so we should be able to look through the lens and see that flash fire. Let's move this rather awkwardly constructed tripod so that it's pointing in the right direction. And let's see if we can see the flash fire when I fire the shutter. Okay, I've got it on B, so that doesn't help. B as in bulb. So we're going to take it up to a 30th of a second. Yes. Now, the great thing about a leaf shutter is that it will synchronize with the flash at all of its shutter speeds. So we're going to take it all the way up to a 500th of a second, a place where no focal plane shutter dare to go. And we will fire it again. Wow, how about that? We're getting good flash sync here. And that's because on the bottom of the camera, right there, you see it right there, the MX sync, I set it to X, which is where it needs to be for for electronic flash, not for flash bulbs. So I've got a roll of Kodak's T-Max 100 film here that is relatively recent. It expired in March of 2002. That wasn't all that long ago. And it's been in my freezer. So we're gonna go ahead and load this into the camera. I like to load from the take-up side because most of my 35mm cameras have a focal plane shutter, and I very much dislike the idea of putting my finger through the shutter. So I wind it in there to get it started, and then I lift up the the rewind spool rather, and I put it down in like that, and I like to rewind the rewind spool till the film is taut. And I'll show you the reason for that. When I close the back here and start advancing it, click, advance, you see how the rewind knob turns and tells me in fact that the film is advancing. That's very important with 35mm cameras because I've had a number of instances where the film didn't get wound correctly on the take-up spool, and so you think you're taking pictures, click, 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 clickety, click, 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 clickety, click, 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 but there's not actually anything there because the film didn't advance. So let's see if we're on frame number 1. Let's see how the frame counter looks. Frame counter says we're on frame number 1. All right, so I'm gonna take a bunch of pictures and then we're gonna process them and let you know what I think.